whether you're a big company, right? So if you're running a big company and you've got teams, you need to read the mission statement. If you're a small company, you
Yeah.
need to read that mission statement. If you're in network marketing or direct sales and you're the leader, you need to have a mission statement. If
Mhm.
you're a solopreneur, you need to have a mission statement.
Warning: Damian Andrews' growing revenue and profit, if implemented, will put more money in your pocket. Please use with caution.
Welcome to Damian Andrews' Growing Revenue and Profit with international speaker and revenue and growth specialist, Damian Andrews. This is your source for practical, usable, and simple action steps that you can do every day to put more money in your pocket. And now, the host of Damian Andrews' Growing Revenue and Profit, Damian Andrews.
And the crowd cheers wildly to the trumpeting blasts of elephants sliding through eyes of needles. This is Damian Andrews' Growing Revenue and Profit, the program that deals with all things that puts more cash in your pocket. This is the show that handles your revenue riddles, profit puzzles, operational oddities, and culture conundrums. I am the one, the only Damian Andrews, and on this show today is the amazing and wonderful Jaclyn Strominger. Jaclyn has been an entrepreneur for 10 years, coaching and training women and men how to pursue their passions and create the life they desire. Her mission is to help others take charge of their life and make changes to become better versions of themselves. She helps people increase their inner and outer confidence, take leaps, and take charge of their life. Jaclyn's aim is for people to be more in charge of their financial economy and build a strong business that fits with their life. And she also works with companies to help create better corporate cultures. I hope I've done you justice there, Jaclyn, because you're doing amazing work. Pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you for taking the time.
Oh my God, Damian, thank you so much for having me. And yes, you got it all. It was really great.
Fantastic. And in the pre-show, we were talking a bit about culture. Can we start there about how critical culture is for companies today, particularly when we look at the changing demographics? Because I look at my dad, for example, and he worked for the same organization his entire career, did multiple different roles and advanced within the organization, but he didn't change jobs. And I think part of that was because there was an abundance of labor and it was difficult and just wasn't expected. But today, there is such a shortage of labor, especially after COVID. People went, hey, I can do things differently. How important is it for a company to create a culture that actually attracts people?
Damian, I have to say, I think culture is probably one of the most important things about a company that not only is going to helps with retention and recruiting, but it really has a huge impact on the bottom line.
Mm.
So I I I work with a lot of companies, and I also work with a lot of individuals who have left companies where they talk about the absolute, negative corporate culture, or they talk about sort of it's like the tigers that are in there and just it's like clawing at people. And it really has, it really has a huge impact on the company. So I really like working with companies so that we can actually go in and go something from negative to make it to start really being positive. And culture really stems with how we actually treat our employees. They, as we were saying earlier, employees are assets. They're
Mm.
really amazing assets. And just like the product that we actually sell, we have to nurture the assets. We have to put time into them. We have to develop them. We have to give them roles that they want. That's the key thing, is that they want. you
Mm,
know, and give them diversity. People want to be growing,
mhm,
and we want to be able to also give people something that I think is almost not done as much these days, which is recognition. And so, and I don't mean need to give everybody a trophy, not that,
mhm,
but it's the little steps that we need to give and the little wins that we need to be able to do for people to celebrate those and give people recognition. Money is not the biggest thing that drives people to stay or to be at a company. Recognition is one of the biggest things. I think people being recognized for the time, effort, commitment, how much they've actually put into their role and how much they're doing, their successes.
mm,
So recognition is huge. The other thing is, just as I was saying, is how much are we educating and how much are we investing in those assets that we have?
mm,
Because people want to feel that they are also part of something and that they're growing with a company. And so, if somebody gets into a company and they've been doing a role for a bit, you have to remember, we have to ask people, like, reminding leaders to ask their team members, the directors, the team members, within each organization, everybody, even down to the janitor, like, where do you see yourself? Where do you want to go? And what do you want to do within this company? And where do you see the company and how, and get people excited about it, not just for the company, but for their role in that company. As large or small as the company, people want to feel that they're part of something and that your or the company is investing in them. And then there's money, but
mm,
again, money's not everything, but part of a family and
mm,
having that corporate culture so that when you walk into the office on a Monday morning, you got a smile on your face. You're happy to be there.
mm.
Actually, that's actually another really big thing that we kinda didn't talk. I just said walk into the office,
Yes, there's a big shift there, isn't there?
right? There's a really big shift. And people who are listening to this, you might slap me for this when I say this. Get people back to the office. I'm sorry. There is a place for to be at work at home, but I also think there's a place to get people into the office. Maybe it's some type of a hybrid thing, but there's
Mm,
an amount of energy and a brainstorming that happens when people are in an office. You just don't get that from, I mean, I love Zoom, trust me, but you just don't get that water cooler brainstorming conversations that happen, or the energy if you're a sales team working together in that frenzy. If you've gotten a sale, like, I want to get a sale, or congratulations, like, there's an energy that happens, and we just don't get that working in our PJs or sitting on a couch or working at Starbucks. It just, or name the company, I should say, the coffee shop that you go to.
yeah.
It's not the same. And I really believe that we need to bring people either into an office or a place where they can get together. If it's not weekly, make it monthly so that there's energy that's happening and brainstorming and connections that are happening so people again feel like they are part of a bigger family. So
What you're talking about there, that part you ended on, feeling like you're part of a family and feeling like you're part of something. Do you think that, well, organizations are starting to recognize that this is important? I was reading a report, I think it was about a week ago or 2 weeks ago, where they talked about, for companies, the shift has moved from chasing revenue as being the highest component of where time is spent to actually attracting quality employees. It didn't say developing culture, but it said attracting quality employees, attracting and keeping employees. That's now become the number one focus of organizations. Do you think that they actually have the skill to do that? From my experience, there's kind of an idea of how to create a good culture, but do you think a lot of companies are kind of playing around in the dark at the moment?
um e- partly yes, I think they are. I think I don't necessarily think that a lot of companies necessarily sit there and think about, what are they doing to uh enrich their employees, and what are they doing to create that family culture and giving the company an entrepreneurial feel, because the entrepreneurial feel really is more about everybody working together to rise the company up to make it something. And a lot of that really comes from digging in and making sure that if I'm interviewing you to come on
Mm.
as an employee, that I'm not just interviewing you for the role. I'm checking to see if you're a fit, but I'm also asking you what your aspirations are, so that
Mm.
if I'm bringing you in, I'm going to say, "Hey, Damien, you're in this role. You told me in the interview that you wanted to go, you have, you want to go up here, or
Mm.
these are what you want to do. Our goal as part of our bringing you into this company is to help you go there.
Mm.
So, what's the path that you're doing within the company to help your employees rise up to?"
Mm.
Like, where's that happening? There's a lot of companies that have corporate training programs for the newbies that come in from, if you're a group coming in from college.
Mm.
Okay, but after that, what happens?
Yes, there's not a lot. That's right.
Right? Like, so where do you
Yeah.
go? Like, where, right? Where, what happens after that?
Mm.
Or, or there's, we talk about, one of the things that I talk to people about are, team meetings and getting people together. It's
Mm.
not just a team meeting in the morning if you're at a sales team to see, hey, how well you done, how what you doing, but it's also really to have those connections to say, okay, as like, where are we as a team, and what are
Mm.
we looking to do for our goals? And you really want to make sure that everybody on your team has bought in to the mission of that team. If it's a large corporation, what your team is doing, or the company, and then what the company is doing, and
Mhm.
how do they all work together? I talk to people about teams having a mission statement,
Mhm.
companies having that mission statement, not just the mission statement for what they want to do,
Yeah.
but that mission statement has to incorporate what they do as a culture. It
Mm.
could be, we create widgets to change the world, and we have a company that has people within this company, and each one of us is working to create an impact.
Mhm.
Like, what's your mission statement for your company and your culture?
How often do you find that companies do have that mission statement, but if you picked it off, you'd probably die from all the dust that's on top of it?
Actually, that's one of the biggest things I think that actually happens, is that
Mm.
when people start a company,
Mm.
they have this huge drive and they know what they want to do, but as they grow,
Mm.
that mission statement doesn't get read as often, and it evolves.
Mm.
Just as we sit down every year and we talk about, New Year's resolutions, right? It's not
Yeah.
really resolution. I hate the word resolution, but
Yeah.
it's really like goals and actions.
Yes.
But you need to revisit that mission statement. And I like to coach companies on looking at that mission statement every 90 days,
Mm.
making sure that it may need a tweak, but
Yeah.
that's okay. You're growing and there's evolving. But we look at things, I like to look at things in 90-day sprints.
I feel
So
very draconian right now because when I'm working with companies, I make them print the mission statement at the top of every minute of every agenda for a meeting. This is your mission statement.
but you need to read that. It's like,
Mm.
so even if whether you're a big company, right? So if you're running a big company and you've got teams, you need to read the mission statement. If you're a small company, you
Yeah.
need to read that mission statement. If you're in network marketing or direct sales and you're the leader, you need to have a mission statement. If
Mm.
you're a solopreneur, you need to have a mission statement.
Yeah.
And that mission statement, and you might also think of it also as somewhat, as a solopreneur, what's your daily affirmation?
Mhm.
Not to be all kind of like woo woo, but like what's your goal? Like, what's the impact that you're trying to make?
I don't think that's woo-woo at all. I mean, I
Yeah.
have a personal mission statement which I recite in my head every morning and night. I know it off by heart, and that's the mantra that I live by. And that's part of, I said, probably where my draconian mission company mission statement is going on top of all your minutes from. But if we take that back, and when you're talking about this corporate culture, and I love that you talked about the interviewing component, and I'm linking this to what you mentioned about feeling like they're part of something, because I've always wondered if we're looking at what we're doing, if we're selling a widget or selling a service, whatever that might be, but that widget or service is not just that, it has a broader impact. And I often ask companies, what is that broader impact that you're focusing on? Is that really important to take up as well, to think beyond just what you're doing, and that way people will connect? Will they connect to that?
I think that's really important to make sure that people see, where that widget's going, because
Hmm.
it's not just what it's doing for the company,
Hmm.
but that widget is helping another family down here. And then it keeps going. And so
Mm.
you have to look at it the broader picture, like how many, what does the impact of what you are doing have on a broader scale? There's here, but there's a bigger picture here, and
Mm.
letting people know that this bigger picture, like think of the other people that you're also impacting, because there's a ripple effect. And but we want that ripple effect to be a positive ripple effect.
Mm.
So I know this, I always like to say, like, think of it like if you're walking into your company, right, and you're happy and you're smiling walking in, okay?
Mm.
You're happy about where you are in your company. That means when you go to your favorite coffee shop,
Mm.
you're going to be happy. And that you're going to actually, your smile that you're doing is going to have an impact on the person that you're interacting with at the cashier, at the person that you're sitting next to, as you're driving down the road. I mean, it has a huge impact,
Mhm.
not just on what we do within our company, but on how our energy is actually put out to the rest of the world. And
Mm.
it has a really big, you know, it has a huge effect.
Mhm.
And that's where I really feel like, you know, if we could have more people walking down the street smiling,
It
I
would
don't
be
know,
a
I
much
just feel
better
like it has
world.
a right, it's a totally different place,
Yeah.
and the impact that we have on others because, your smile, when you
Mm.
smile at somebody, it's smiles are infectious.
Yeah.
So I'd
You
rather
produce
somebody
dopamine and
right,
serotonin, you're getting a natural high. Yeah.
right, you get a natural high. So what if everybody was walking around the world with a natural high? How cool
Yeah.
would that be?
Be lots of I don't know if you remember the movie Crocodile Dundee, but lots of Crocodile Dundees walking around New York.
That's
G'day,
true.
g'day, g'day.
Right. G'day, g'day. Right. Just making like, but think about the impact that you can have on
Mhm.
others. It's not just your company, it's the impact that you have on others. And that's where, that corporate culture, it starts at the top and it
Mhm.
has to go all the way down but then it also goes back up. And so as we see that, if you start to see the people that are working, if you're the leader and you see the people that are on your team and working with you and you see they're smiling and you see that impact,
Mhm.
that's it you're going to get more energy and you're going to like, oh my God, we are making huge strides. And
Yeah.
then it's going to have an impact on your bottom line because
Mm.
people are going to be happier. They're going to like what they're doing. You're going to see an impact on the sales. So it has a huge compound effect in a
Yeah.
positive way.
And can we touch on that component you mentioned before about money as well? I've found from my experience that often when someone resigns and they have that exit interview, they say, "Oh, I've got a job somewhere else for more money." What's often not in there, and because I have those conversations with people, and for some reason people tend to open up to me. I'm not sure why I have that. And I learned the late night DJ voice a long time ago, so maybe that helps.
I was gonna say, it might be your voice, right?
Yes, exactly. It's like, so how are you going today? Yeah. But I've noticed in having those conversations that the people were actually unhappy, and that was the reason they started to look. Can you expand a little bit more about that process where it seems to be people think, oh, they left because it was money, but they're not looking further and deeper and understanding that? And is that really the motivator? That they were unhappy first, then they looked, or was it what's your experience on that? Can you expand on that?
Yeah. So I actually think that most people actually leave companies because they're unhappy, but not because of the money, not necessarily because of the money. It's because they haven't been treated well. It's
Hmm.
because they they have made an investment in the company, but they don't feel the company has made an investment back. They're not getting recognized for
Law
their
of
work.
I can't even say that. Law of the reciprocity. I can't say it.
Right. It's not reciprocal on what they're doing. They don't feel that and they don't feel, and a lot of people leave because they don't feel like they are part of a team, or that they're, recognition is big, but it's really, they don't feel that where
Don't
they
feel
are, that there's
valued,
any
or
value and upward mobility, because it's that lack of feeling that they're being invested in. I mean, if I'm
mm,
working at a company and I'm working super hard, well, yes, I need to be thanked. I need
mhm,
to be thanked for what I'm doing. I need to feel recognized. I do need to feel valued. I need to feel that I'm making a difference. And I need to feel that the company is also saying, like, hey, Damien, you've done a great job. And again, asking the question, Damien, you've done great.
mhm,
Where do you see yourself in the company?
mhm.
Where do you see yourself growing? And where do you want to be growing? Like, you know, reviews for people shouldn't be a review. It should mean, yes, on report performance reviews.
Mhm.
It goes both ways, right? Like
Yeah.
like it has to, and it shouldn't just be once a year.
I love that a performance review goes both ways. The employee will give some feedback to, how have you performed as the
Right.
organization. Yeah.
Well, it's just like giving a, if you're standing up in front of a lecture hall, or you're giving, if you're a speaker at a conference, you have a piece of paper that people fill out to see how well you've done, because you want
Mm,
your review. Well, how are you doing within your company? What do your employees think?
yeah.
And and but it needs to be a relationship where people can actually talk and say, you know, Damien, I love you as my leader. You're really great. But there are some things that I feel like I wish we could work on, as a team, or
Mm,
this is where I want to grow. How can we help me move up here? I think something that people forget about as leaders, or even within companies, is that the people that you have on your team, you're supposed to be working to have them train them to take your spot. I don't know
mm,
if anybody's taken Dale Carnegie, but that was like one of the biggest things. You want to bring people on that are smarter than you, and you want to
mm.
train them to take your spot
Yeah.
so that you can move up and they can grow up,
How do
move
people
up.
overcome that insecurity of doing that though? Because they think that someone's going to take their spot. They're going, oh, I don't want to do that because I might lose my job, which is probably not really relevant given the demographics that are available to now because there's just so little employees. But how do we overcome that fear factor?
It's honestly, it comes from the person, the leader, also having their, whether it's the CEO or their
Mm,
manager, know what they want.
mm,
It becomes a ripple effect. Yes, if I'm working in a big organization and I'm training people to take my spot, I'm assuming that if somebody's going to take my spot, that I'm going to take somebody else's spot.
mhm.
It's
Yes.
because it's about my personal growth too,
Yeah.
as the leader. And I need to, yes, you need to feel that what you're doing has an impact, and
Mm,
people have to understand, and it's a level of confidence,
mhm,
so that, and this also comes down to, again, people thinking that, as a, what their mission is for their team. And I hate to say this, it's not about you, right? Like, it's about the them. So you have to get people to start thinking about like it's a little, I guess, altruistic. Like, I'm going to be helping these people and you're going to be recognized for the growth of your team.
Yeah.
And yeah, you know, you're going to get recognized and you're going to be seen as that person who has an amazing team. And it's not about you, it's about your team. So
Yeah.
take you out of it.
That's really a challenge, I think, taking you
It,
out of that. And that goes across. I teach a lot of sales as well. And one of the biggest things in sales is stop talking about yourself. Listen
yep.
to what they've got to say. And with this creating corporate culture, going and the starting at the start with the interview, ultimately what we're doing is we're creating a relationship. And something that I learned, I think, later in life, I would have liked to have learned it earlier, was that no amount of skill fixes a poor partner choice. And that's not to say the other person is bad, you're just not a fit for each other. How
Yep.
important, and because it's something that I've incorporated a lot into what I do, is firstly understanding what the company values are, and then finding people that align well, will have similar values. And I know a number of my clients, some of those organizations, they've had employees there in this day and age for 30 years because they aligned on the value. They're smaller companies, they're second generation companies that are turning over around the 25 mil area, so not massive, but they've
Yeah.
had lots of loyal employees because those employees' values aligned with the directors, and they just stayed with them. How
Yeah.
important is that in creating that relationship to actually be very clear about what your values are or what you're aiming to do, and have a process whereby you identify people that actually have that fit?
I think values are actually one of the biggest, a huge impact. And so, actually, one of the things that I take my clients through is a value assessment.
Um,
And so, I actually have them go through their personal values and their action values. So, and then I ask them, to do that as a corporate level too. Like, where are yours here, and where are those values for the people that are here? And I think if you take your top 10 values as
yeah.
a company, and in the interview process, I think it's a question. I think you have to ask,
Mhm.
if I'm interviewing you, I might say, so Damian, I'm gonna I'm gonna list, you know, 10 values.
Mhm.
You just share what your top five would be. So if out of my 10 and
Mm.
you align with those top five or those five are in there, or you might, that's a great way to see if somebody's values are going to align with the company. But it really needs to, people need to know that. And it
Mm.
has to be part of that mission statement. The values of the company have to wind their way in there too. Because
Yeah,
it's really important.
I love that you have that program for that, because not only from creating that alignment with values and creating that relationship, but you're doing so much for the mental health of people that are actually working for you. If you've got that foundational connection, is that something you've experienced as well?
We do. We actually, people's mental health and the feeling that people have, again, it kind of all goes back to the same thing, almost like where we started at, where
Mm.
that whole corporate culture can have an impact on somebody's mental health. So if
Mm.
you walk into a building or you are going into work and you're happy and you're feeling fulfilled about what you're doing and you're liking the company for the values, you're feeling that you're getting recognized, you're feeling that the company has invested in you, you're liking the work that you're doing, and obviously you liking the financial impact that it's making on your family and your life,
Mhm.
then your head is going to be more in line with your heart.
Yeah.
And so it's it has that, if it's the opposite, that has a negative spiraling effect, and
Mm.
then you end up with people that are, disgruntled, they're miserable, and it has a negative compound effect that
Mm.
way. And that's where people end up having, really needing to like figure out, okay, I'm miserable walking into work.
Yeah.
And if they don't fix it, they're going to stay miserable. And then again, that's what they're putting out to the rest of the world too. And
Yeah.
it's hard to leave something where you're not happy because we spend so much of our time working to
Hmm.
change it once we quote unquote go home, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things that we do is I have a process that it's called LEAP,
Hmm.
and it's language, energy, action, and performance.
Yeah.
So we break that down for companies and teams where we're looking at the language that people are using. How
Hmm.
are they talking to people? What's their mission statement? How are they interviewing people? How are they interacting with people on, on that 90-day process?
Yeah.
Am I connecting with them along the way so
Mm.
that I stay aligned, so that we all stay aligned together,
Mhm.
that the companies are moving together. We look at the energy of a company.
Mm.
Energy, if you start having disgruntled employees, misery loves company, so you're going to start getting the negative chatter. So we
Yeah.
want to stop that. Or if you have people that are inward fighting within the company,
Mm.
that energy, we want to try to raise that back up so people are actually working more in an anabolic state of energy so
Mhm.
that they've got the serotonin's going, they're happy and they're working together and the company's moving forward as
Mm.
opposed to having the backlash. And then we're talking about action. What are we doing? What are the plans that we're putting into place to
Mm.
move people, to move people? And then how are we measuring performance and what are we doing to look at the performance individually, as a team, and as a company? And they all play together. So um, it's one of those things it's like a leap process that we put in. I think we want people to leap forward. We want companies to leap.
I love that. And how do you, because you work a lot with and you'd say the inner and outer confidence of people. How does that fit with that? Can you expand to that? And can you expand on what you mean by inner and outer confidence as well?
Yep. So our inner confidence is that that feeling that we have in our stomachs, basically, and how we feel internally if we're coming from a place of fear or anger.
Mm.
Um, and how do we feel internally? Are we getting up in the morning and are we excited about what we're doing?
Mm.
Because if we feel excited about what we're doing inside, that's going to actually show our confidence on the outside. So one of the things that I like to help people do is put together daily, weekly, and monthly action plans with small steps so they can feel and they can see rewards for
Mhm.
what they're doing. And so they're creating an impact. They know they're making a difference. And
Mhm.
so they're feeling really good. They start to feel really good on the inside, like, hey, I'm feeling really good about what I'm doing. And that they're part of something. So that really has a play on where they are. And then we look at um, you know, looking at it after 90 days, what's that impact? Because people start to feel insecure when they
Mm.
don't feel like they're making a difference, and that starts to eat at them on the inside. So
Mm.
if we can turn that around and say, you know what, Damien, you've done amazing. You've your daily goals are, even if it's 30 minutes of, let's just say, cold calling. I don't know. Okay, maybe that's on your list
Yep.
and you've gotten that done and you do that every day, that's going to have a long impact. And
Mm.
then you're getting somebody saying, I feel really good that I've made those calls. I've gotten that done. And
Mm.
so, whatever those action plans are, and we look at it from a week. So it starts to build that confidence. And then it also works, we also take it to the team level because that's also going to have an impact on somebody's, internal confidence. Because if you feel like you're part of a team and you're being rewarded, it's
Yeah.
going to make you feel better on the inside too. And it's going to have an effect on the outside. So people just need to have uh, those little wins
Mm.
make big advancements and make big impacts.
And how do we take that a step further? Because you also talk about people taking leaps. Now,
Yeah.
as people, as we've evolved, we know that there's safety in the group. If we moved out of the group, we could have got eaten by a lion. So we naturally want to stay within the group. So when we fall behind, we actually want to catch up. But it also works the other way. If we get too far ahead, we then self-sabotage and bring back. How do you balance that out with that confidence, but encouraging people to make that leap, but still moving forward so we don't suffer from imposter syndrome, so to speak? I don't like that word, but people understand what it means, where you've moved
Yeah.
outside of what would be your comfort zone of who you think you are, and then you start self-sabotaging.
So that's when we actually start working with people on their own internal language,
Mm,
where you even just said yourself, like you have your own internal mission statement. We
mm,
have to change the story that we're telling ourselves.
yeah.
So I actually have people write their story,
Okay.
write their mission. Like where do you want to go, and what is your belief for you?
Mm,
It's your belief, and you have to kind of then take it to the next level to say, because as you said, all of a sudden I might be self-sabotaging myself because I might have this thing that says, oh, you know what, Damian's not really good at that. Well, is that really true? Is that the truth? So I have people take it down to what's true and what's truth,
mm,
because there's two different things. And I have people write their mission statement for themselves and their affirmations so
mhm,
that they have that confidence as you keep telling yourself. And then if you're growing, let's say you're in a team and you're growing, well then if you're within a company, then I'm discussing with them, okay, so who in your company do you need to talk to about advancement?
mm,
Or have those conversations of advancements. If your company can't do that for you, that might be the time where you might say to yourself, okay, company X cannot provide this for me.
mm.
And maybe that might be where you need to make a leap. As I like to say, you can either level up or level out. If your company can't provide it for you, then you might need to level out.
Yes.
It's not a bad thing that you leave a company,
Mhm.
but you may have outgrown the company, you may have outgrown the role, or there might not be that role for you any longer. It's not that you're miserable, you're unhappy, you've loved the company, but you want more growth.
Yeah. And where does it sit with that growth as well when we're talking about executive leadership? From a lot of my experience, where a company, they might have these objectives that they want to achieve, but it's actually the leadership that's holding that back. And I have a friend who, was very, I think, quite successful company. He had a company, he was working flat out, and he had a company that was turning over 80 mil. And he got really sick, and so sick that he was stuck in bed and couldn't go to the office. He was still getting reports, but he couldn't go to the office. And he spent, I think it was 8 months in bed, if I remember correctly. So he was really, just whatever it was really unwell. I can't remember, he told me, but one of those things that Einstein said, "Don't remember anything you can look up," so I could always ask him. So I didn't remember it. But
Right.
what he found in that time that he was away, it was astronomical. I mean, in a way, they took the employees took the company to nearly 100 million turnover in that 8 months that he was gone, and he realized, "Actually, what I need to do is just get out of the way." That's what they need to do. But how do you get that across to someone that might be in an executive leadership position, might be the director of a company, and to realize that maybe they're the handbrake that's holding it back?
Well, I think one of the biggest things you need to look at first and foremost is how much time that they're spending and how much their team is doing and how much they're relying on their team. It's a
Mm,
team,
yeah.
keyword team, right? So it's my favorite acronym. Together, everyone achieves more,
Oh, I like
right?
that.
So you have to have the leader of the
Mhm.
company. Like if I was talking to him and I was seeing how much he was doing, I would have probably asked him, so how much are you delegating to your team? And
Mm,
how much does your team, what's your team's involvement? And then that also comes down to the mission of the company and each of the teams. Because if they're all working together, you know, the leader really needs to be overseeing it all and creating that level of excitement and having people working together so that they can rise up. The company, the biggest thing that company did is that they wanted to show him that they actually could do something good for him,
Mm.
but that he still needs to have that there with
Mhm.
him there, right? So you need to have the company all working together again, because it comes down to what's their impact? Like, what
Yeah.
can they do? How is what they're doing going to make the company rise up? What's the impact that's going to happen? And how amazing are they going to feel when they keep stepping up and how they know that they've taken a role in that growth? The
What I'm
leaders
hearing there
just
is you're coming back to that recognition where they actually got, even he may not have actually said anything, but they got the recognition of seeing their achievement.
right. They got the recognition. They got the value of the
Mm.
growth. I mean, how amazing would it be if for a company to, for the leader of the company or of a team to say, these are our goals. We are
Mm.
going to all work together. Each and every single one of you is going to have an impact on this.
How
And then at
important is
the
it from that corporate culture perspective to actually have that recognition that this is my role? My role is to delegate, and this role is to do this, that role is to get clear about
I
that
think
in
it's
creating the corporate culture.
I think it's really important to have those roles and have people, again, it comes down to what's my impact as the leader of the company.
Mm.
The leader of a company or even of a team is to say that I'm the orchestrator, right? I'm the conductor. I'm the one that's going to bring us together. Each one of you is part of this orchestra and needs to work together. If you're off key, the orchestra sounds horrible. If you're not working up the same level, we're not going to do this. But if we all work together, the music is beautiful, right? So
Yeah.
it has to have that same thing. And we have to look at ourselves, and leaders have to look at ourselves as the orchestra. And you have to think that somebody that's looking in, if
Mhm.
I'm sitting in the audience, how awesome is it when we see and the conductor really being excited about what he's doing and he's like really into it. Well, it's the same thing for a company. You
Yeah.
want to have the leader be super excited about
Mhm.
the company as they're coming in and they're excited about it. It creates that same level of excitement for the whole company. But it starts at the top and it starts at the team top.
Mhm.
So whether you're the leader of the company or you're the leader of a team, or even if you're an individual, it goes all the way down. Like you have to have your own mission statement, you have
Mhm.
to have the team mission statement, and you have to have the company mission statement. And they kind of all have to work together individually, and connected, and
Yeah.
collectively.
And how do we create that communication? I love my pop culture references, and one of my favorite scenes about leadership is from Saving Private Ryan. And they're walking along, and I think it's Vin Diesel says to Tom Hanks, "Hey, don't you ever complain?" And he goes, "Well, no, there's a chain of command. Complaints go up, not down. So you complain to me, I complain to my senior, and so on and so on." And so, well, let's say it was the opposite. Let's say, I was a major and you're the captain. What would you say to me then? He goes, "Well, this is an excellent mission, a worthy mission. And it's wonderful." And I come looking, and and how important is it to understand that flow of how we are communicating within the organization to create that culture?
Well, it's the number one on my L, which is language, right? So it is that language that we speak and how we speak to people is really important.
Mm.
So again, if you are talking, it's like you have to be in the trenches. You have to show that you're actually also working, but you
Mm.
have to get people excited about it. It's like if you have a campaign, like a marketing campaign, you've got to get everybody excited and rallied around it so that
Mm.
they know that this is something that is really good. So in Private Ryan, he's like, yeah, this is an amazing mission. We're going to make a huge impact, right? So again, it's the language that we use
Mm.
and how we speak to our people and our teams that also creates a culture. If I'm going to sit there and tell you, if I said something to you like, hey, Damien, like like, what the freaking hell happened to you with your sales last month?
Mm.
Or, hey, Damian, if I'm, like,
Yeah.
that would just not make me feel very good if someone had said that to me. It's like, hey, Damian, you're like, sales were great. What can we do to, what's your next goal? Or okay, so, how are you feeling about your sales this month? It would be better for you to say, hey, you know what? I missed the mark. So then I'm going to say to you, well, what could you have done differently? What did you do? What can we do differently? And how can I, as your leader, help you so that you hit your sales goals?
Yeah.
Like, how can
Asking
I
that
help
question
you?
as well, because you're coming back to questions. I love
Yes.
that. How do
You
we?
have that.
Oh, go
I
ahead.
was going to, yeah, I was going to just say that questions are really important to
Mhm.
ask people. Like, I think it's like, again, so whether it's, what could you have done differently? Why do you think you had that effect? Or
Mhm.
why was that the outcome?
Mhm.
Good or bad? Like, hey, congratulations. How did you do that? What did you do to get those? What did you do to get that sales? Or, you know, and give you the kudos, but asking people questions, okay, so Damien, you've hit this. What do you want to do next? Like, what's the next goal? We as a team did this. What do we as a team want to do next? What's
Mhm.
our next level? But asking questions also on the personal level, somebody had said to me once that um, you don't want to be too personal with people. Well, you
Mhm.
do want to be personal with the people that are in your company. You want to get to know them because you
Mhm.
want to know, again, you want to get to know what people want out of their life. What do they want? Like, you might be working with me on my team and you actually like, what, I really want to be able to save money so I can go travel around the world. I don't
Mhm.
know. I don't know what your internal missions are unless I ask.
Yes, it's important, isn't it? It's part of that relationship. You're having this relationship to understand the other person.
And we have to have relationships with the people that we
Mm.
work with
Mm.
and with our, the companies. There was um I I'll just share something. I used to work at a company. It was a summer internship at a printing company,
Mhm.
and the one thing that I still will remember is that the president of the company used to walk around every single day and just say hi to people and just talk,
Mm.
like just
What a
interact
novel
with everyone,
idea. You know?
right?
Yeah.
It was really it because you made you
What
feel
is
part of
the
like
impact? What are some of the impacts you've seen from that asking questions that an example being, I know I implemented some programs in companies and as a side effect, and it should be obvious that it wasn't a side effect that it was going to happen, but it became, we had meetings where they brought key problems and we talked through them and solved them. So everyone got to bring a problem, we worked through that. What I found from that was that complaints in the organization almost stopped because they felt heard, which should have been obvious, but it was there. What are some of the other impacts that you've seen by this, asking questions or just walking around and saying hi to people?
it's the feeling of valued, feeling that like if as the leader, the people know, like they know who you are, and that
Mm.
you're has a greater feeling of inclusion
Mhm.
and involvement. And so because you get to feel like if somebody's asking me questions, my voice is being heard.
Mhm.
And I do feel that I get to share my thoughts too. People are asking my opinion.
Mhm.
I'm not just taking orders. I'm not just a so you just it's that whole level of I'm part of something
Mhm.
and I matter. What
Yeah,
I say is important. And my opinions and thoughts are just as important as the next person.
I love that. We've talked a lot about culture and it's fairly, I think it's becoming very clear how important culture is for organizations today, especially with the changing demographics, but also just fundamentally for a company to perform well, having a good culture where you create that. I don't like using the word positive because I steal from Shakespeare, who wrote "Nothing's good or bad, thinking makes it so." So it's just invent, but creating an environment where people feel empowered and want to do well. So let me frame it that way. And we've talked about culture a lot of being one of those challenges that companies are facing and need to overcome. What are some of the other key challenges that you see that organizations are facing in today's environment that they need to overcome as well to perform well and help grow their revenue and profit?
So, well, one of the big things is retention is really important.
Hmm.
Keeping their key employees, that's a huge thing.
Yeah.
So that's part of that culture. The other thing that is also really important is again, creating that. Um, where is the company in terms of what they are doing for recognition with their people? It's
Mm.
really important. It is part of that culture.
Mhm.
And how much are they, and what is the company doing for that investment? Again, it all goes back to the employees and their assets as an
Mm.
asset and making those, if the employees are the employees are the thing that obviously affects that bottom line.
Yeah.
And so the more that we can actually put things in place so that people are feeling valued and heard and that they're going to stay, that's going to have the ripple effect that's going to really impact the bottom line. At
Mm.
the end of the day, you know, yes, people need sales. We need to have, great marketing, but people need to feel that they're part of a team. And
Yeah.
so that is, again, one of the biggest things I think that companies are facing today more than anything is how do we create that when we have people that are working outside of an office? And
Mm.
so that's where I think that's something that's really, an impact is that the company has to find a way to get the people together.
Mhm.
If everybody's out of the office, well, how are you getting people to make that connection? So what are
Mhm.
you doing to bring them together? I think that's really something that really has to be thought of today to help create that. I mean, I'm part of something bigger than myself.
Mhm.
And so whether you're getting people together monthly or quarterly, like how are you bringing that in and where is that showing
Mm.
up? Because that is again, people need to feel that they're part of something. So today, with all the remote people, everybody working remote, you've got to find a way to bring people together.
Yeah. How
So
do we
I was
kick
going to
it?
say I was going to share something that was, there's a company that was out there, and I thought this was actually pretty horrible what they did, and I'm not going to tell what the company is, but they basically decided to make everybody. They sold their building and they had everybody go remote,
Mhm.
and then they threw this big huge party,
Mhm.
and they spent like $1 million, like whatever, bringing people in,
Mhm.
like whatever. Um, and then they went and laid off people like a month later.
Mm.
Okay. So I'm saying that because, if you're going to send people home
Mhm.
and you're looking at your bottom line, don't go throwing a massive party to celebrate that and then go lay people off a month later.
Yeah.
So the impact of what a company does, like
Mm.
it to me, yes, you could have, get rid of your company, have everybody go home, but don't throw a big party. Do things to get people together,
Mhm.
their teams, and make people feel appreciated. And if you're going to be spending that money to have a party, make sure you're not laying people off because of it.
That
Like,
feeling appreciated is really important. Again, a lesson that I learned too, and too late in life, was that people don't remember so much what you say or do, but they remember how you make them feel. And then that pop culture reference from Three Men and a Baby, where they're telling the story and reading this graphic novel to the child, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. But
right.
is that part of the training that we have? I know here in Australia, we have very, very high technical skills, but the soft skills are actually quite low, and I'm not sure if it's the same where you are. But is that something we need more training around? How to have these conversations, how to interact with people better, how to create rapport?
I think we do, and I think that's one of the things where I feel like I'm working with people on ways to ask the questions and it's not because if you have that personal relationship with people, it's not just business. I mean, you know, you need to get to know your employees and you need to know how to interact with them on a personal level as well as a business level.
Mhm.
And so one of the things that we try to do is we really try to help people learn how to ask questions and learn about their employees because people want to know and feel that again that appreciation, and they also need to have that as you were just saying, like it's how you say things to people
Mm.
really matters. Like again, that's why language is so important. I talk to people a lot about language. Like, how are you saying things? Like
Mm.
I'm, and how does the person like you have to sometimes ask people the question. As as an employee or a relationship, do you like direct? Like, how do you like to receive information?
Mm.
If you like direct, then I can be direct with you. But if you don't want direct
Mhm.
and you would not, you want it to be sort of a little bit softer approach, you, the recipient, and the giver needs to know that.
Yeah.
Because if I sat there and said to you, like, you need to do this, like to make your numbers versus, okay, let's look at your plan. There's
Mm.
all ways that we can say things.
Yeah.
So you need to we need to ask people on how they like to take information too.
You're
I
giving me flashbacks to when I was young in the corporate career, and my boss worked out that not to be wishy-washy, just tell me what to do and I'll go and do it.
yeah, right. Right. Well, so one of the things that I used to that we instill and actually have companies do is we actually have them take a little bit of a survey of their team and ask them like, you know, kind of funny things you know, like what's your favorite food? What's your favorite animal?
Mm.
How do you like recognition? It's a
Mm.
question that we ask. Do you like a plaque? Do you want to be like put up on the, company bulletin board kind of thing? Do you want a gift? Like, how do you like recognition?
Yeah.
Like, it's a big thing to ask.
Mm.
And then the other thing that I would have people actually do for their teams is I actually also ask them is, how do you want your feedback?
Mhm.
Do you also like, I like to meet with people. Do you want to have a meeting like, is it a once a week? I like to start people off, once a week, new employees. Like it's a check-in every day. New employees, how are you getting them started? I like to say to people, make sure that you're loving on all your people, making them feel good when they get started, right? But don't forget to keep showing them the love. Like just because if they're starting as a new employee and they're on there for 90 days, don't after 90 days be like, okay, we're done.
Yeah.
No more love. No, you got to keep loving on
Like a
people.
relationship, you can't just, the roses on the first date. It has to
Right.
go
It
forever.
has to keep on going.
Exactly.
So what's interesting is that when I've asked people to do the surveys
Mhm.
of their teams, one of the things that is really that's kind of interesting is a lot of people, more people will say that they want recognition being like a notification, like, is it the company intranet, like so that the
Mm.
people within the company know versus a tangible.
So that recognition is again, it sounds. I mean, I'm making it sound as though it's a BFO, but it's really pretty obvious when you think about it. People like that recognition. How has
Yeah.
leadership changed now with this remote working environment? And I'll put it in context again, going back to my early corporate career. When I first started in one of the corporate companies, I was very diligent. So when something went in my in tray, I dealt with it straight away and finished it. And then I'd go to work on the computer doing whatever I needed to do or something like that. But my in tray was pretty much empty. And within a couple of weeks, I got called into the office and they said, "We're a bit concerned because you don't look like you've got much to do." And I went, "What?" And I said, "Well, your in tray's always empty." I went, "But I'm doing all the work and then doing other stuff." And I walked out of that office, went to the scrap paper bin, grabbed a big thick paper and threw it in my in tray and left it there. But it seems to be that there was, I know from working in my corporate environment, it seemed to be if you turned up early and then you stayed late, there was that whole idea that you got there before the boss got there, you stayed after the boss went, and most of the time you're out having coffee, which is what a lot of people did. But it seems to me now that you can't do that in a remote environment because you can't the boss can't be there checking. And I know that was probably a poor culture that I was in to experience that in those environments where I was there, where that came. But do you think it's actually now shifted to we become more outcome focused? And you might be able to do something really quickly. I look at my son. He never does homework, yet he gets really, really good results. But he's worked out, I have an efficiency program and I've taught him, so he knows how to study really well. So it sinks in and he gets great results on his exams. But is that a case where we're actually having this shift in what's expected, where we're becoming more outcome focused and working on that efficiency side to get it done quickly?
I would agree with you. I think that's sort of actually more of it. It's definitely happening a lot more because it's all about what you can produce and how and what work you've done, so that you can check off the box. I've done that. I've done that. I've done that, and so that people can see what you've done. And I think what's missing in today's culture is having people check in. So
Mm,
me personally, if one of the things that I talk to people about is what are you doing with your teams to get them to connect, if you're working remotely on that weekly basis.
mm,
How are those are you meeting on Zoom? Like,
mm,
you know, um, a lot of people will be like, "Oh, well, I've signed in,
mm,
so that they can see me signing in." But really, how are you showing up? I mean, you're
mm,
getting some of that work done, but again, it goes also back to a little bit of that mental health. So yes,
mm,
you've got your work done, but are you feeling really good about it? So some way we have to get the company to, again, and those teams to find a way so that they can at least get together so that people can see that recognition, and that there's a way to bring that in on a
mm,
weekly basis so
mm,
that people are feeling that, again, feeling that connection. It's, it is all about, a lot of it is about output and how much you're doing. But I think one of the things that keeps getting missed now
mm,
is being part of that team, and how is my daily work having a greater impact.
mhm,
And so I really try to work with the teams on finding ways for them to have those connections now, because
mm,
it's as humans, we
mm.
need connection. We
Yeah.
really do. And so it's one of those reminders that I remind companies and leaders, like, you have to find a way to make your teams connect. People
Mhm,
are remote, but what are you doing to bring them together? Because at the end of the day, too, you know, if you showed up to your company, let's say, and you got there early and you were showing that's showing not just that you're going to get your work done, but it's a level of enthusiasm and commitment to the company.
yeah.
And they're gonna be like, hey, you know what? Damien shows up. He's got a smile on his face all the time. He's there supporting other people. He's there, like, he's a team player.
Mhm,
So it's harder to see that when we're all remote. So you've got to still find a way to bring people together so that, and what's happening with, and how do you get people to work together collectively
mm,
when we're remote? And we try to create that environment remote because we need to connect.
yeah. I mean, does it take much? And I'll relay my experience with my ELT, executive leadership teams, that I have. I mandate that my team, each member of the team, I meet daily with, and via Zoom, um, and I allow half an hour, but it actually only takes most of the time takes about 10 minutes. But it's just to check in to see what's going on, any issues, how can I help, and it becomes a very quick check in, and that was great work, and moving forward. Can it be that simple? It seems to work for me, but I mean, maybe I'm just a freak.
No. I think actually, no, you're not a freak. No, but it is. I think you have to have those Zooms. So e- if you start your day, let's just say as a team, and you're
Mm,
starting your day connecting with your team, and
mm,
everybody, and for lack of a better word, it's like, it's the end of the huddle, right? Okay, one, two, like
yeah,
go, right? So it helps create that energy so that they're all working, that you're still working together. So it can be just as simple as a Zoom,
mm.
but at some point too, I really people need to get together, like in
Because,
person.
and I've seen that with so many people that I know in other organizations where, as you said, the check-in. So they will actually sign on their computer to show they're signed in. So they go up, they sign in on the computer, then they'll go and get a coffee and go. And I've been at people's houses seeing them do that. And, and that's where I wonder, what is that doing to the morale for the workforce? And I don't think it's doing a lot of good things.
I don't think it's doing a lot of good, and that's really why you can say to somebody you've logged in, but if you're logged in, but are you present?
Yeah.
And so by having that Zoom and having that team meeting, it is getting people almost like that, hey, let's give us the high five for walking into the office. Okay, it's a high five for I'm starting my day,
Yeah.
right? And so you're getting people starting their days together, or you're creating that. And so that people again feel some kind of inclusion, so inclusiveness. And then again, you can give everybody that virtual high five. Okay, let's break, let's go get this done.
Yeah.
And so then there's also the check-in at the end of the I think people need to have those meetings where it's like, okay, so this is the week plan, how are we
Mm.
doing, and where are you focusing on each week? So as you have to have the goals set for your week. And then it's okay, so this week we're working on this. We can break it down by days, but we
Mhm.
need to have weekly goal and that weekly, you know, um, an impact meeting, so that
Mhm.
it's that weekly impact, like this is the impact that we're going to be making this week, and this is what's going to be moving us forward.
Yeah. I love that. Tell us a bit about Leap to Your Success, your baby you've created. What are the services that you offer? How do you help people? What's the impact that you create? And yeah, so what are the services you offer? And your product placement, sell it for all it's worth.
So, well, basically, so let me just share. So, one of the biggest things that I love to do is I do one-on-one coaching, but I also do team coaching. And so, and I also, so I have a couple of different packages where with companies, I will come in and we'll work on that whole leap process. So, working on language, the energy and action plan, and performance. So, we'll do that with companies, and I also do that individually. And then I have a 3 month individual coaching package for companies. It's 6 months. And I have something called Unstoppable Success, so that we are looking at it on a 6 month basis, and we're really going to make companies and individuals unstoppable. And then I have Unstoppable Achievement, which is 6 months, and it's a VIP day where where I actually work with companies, and I'll come in for a day. We do a little bit of a retreat offsite. We really focus in on the mission for the company. I usually will hire a photographer to come in and a makeup artist to do headshots for people. So we bring that into
Yeah,
play. And then I'm looking that also incorporates 6 months of coaching for a company, and I also do that on an individual basis for people as well. So
love that. And
um,
how do people reach you? What's the best way to? We'll put it in the show notes, but
yeah.
how do people connect with you? What's your tags? Where will they find you?
So people can find me at my website, which is leaptoyoursuccess.com. You can also find me on Facebook at my first name, Jaclyn Strominger. I have a Facebook page, Jaclyn.Strominger. You can find me also on LinkedIn, Jaclyn Strominger, and there's also a company on Leap to Your Success. And on Instagram, it's Jaclyn.Strominger. But Damian, what I want to make sure that I share with everybody is that if you go to my website and you fill out the contact form, I do give and offer everybody a free Passion to Profit strategy session. So it's free. Just got to fill out the contact form, and you could be one of those people that has a strategy session.
I
So
love that.
great.
What an offer. Audience, take that into account. Go to the website, fill out the form, get the free strategy session. I love that. Jaclyn, before we go, there's been wonderful talking about culture, and culture is so important in today's environment. But before we go, if you were to leave the audience with a key takeaway, nutshell, wisdoms, what would it be that you want the audience to walk away from this interview with?
The biggest thing I want people to walk away with is remember that what you do every day has a huge impact. And if you can think about the energy that you're putting out, just put a smile on your face when you get up in the morning and before you pick up the phone, because it's contagious and it's going to have a huge impact not on yourself but on everybody else around you. And the more that we can actually, you know, spread a smile around, it's just going to create a ripple effect around the world.
I love that. Smiling is one of my favorite things. So yeah, I'm on board. I'm sold. I want to love that. Jaclyn, it has been such a wonderful interview. I loved what you've been sharing, the knowledge that you've got, the depth and breadth of knowledge that you've shared with the audience, and the specific actions they can do. And also, audience, again, remember that. Take up that free offer. Go to Jaclyn's website and fill out the form. You'll get that free strategy session. Jaclyn, thank you very much for being on the show. It's been so wonderful having you.
And Damian, thank you so much. This has been absolutely fantastic. And I can understand, why people talk to you so much, because you are such a great, it's great to have a conversation with you.